All right, let's keep it pushing. So this one we got Matthew chapter 8. This one starts off with Jesus healing a man with leprosy. And leprosy is the type of disease where, your skin literally starts to like rot while you're alive. So a lot of people would avoid anyone who had this condition. So it says, when Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." Immediately he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priests and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them." So I don't get that part, so we need to figure out what that means. Show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded. What is that? So I have a study Bible by Dr. David Jeremiah. So let's see here. Matthew chapter 8, 4. Okay, so it says, the first miracle Matthew records is Jesus healing a man with leprosy. Any Jew who touched a leper was declared ceremonially unclean and unfit to worship with the congregation of Israel. But Jesus touched the leper, indicating his authority over all disease, and the leper was immediately made whole. Jesus instructed to the healed leper that he not tell anyone what happened to him is the first of many such instructions in the gospel. Wow. Okay, so even the fact that Jesus touched the old dude is pretty baller. He was going against the grain. The faith of the centurion. So when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Then Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" All right, now I want you to pay attention to this because Jesus, he has a automatic response when the centurion says, "Lord, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering." Jesus immediately says, "Should I come and heal him?" Right? Because this was the norm. Someone would be sick, Jesus would go and heal them. The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one go, and he goes, and I tell this one come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him. So Jesus heard this man say, "Hey, look, I know you asked, should you come and heal my boy? But honestly, you ain't even got to do all that. All you got to do is say the word." This was so impressive to Jesus that he says to everybody who's following him, "Truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus replied to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. So this right here is a prime example that shows you Jesus shows us the heart of God, and he flipped out. He lost it. He lost his cool when old dude was like, "Look, bro, you ain't even got to come and see my dude. Just say the words and he'll be healed." Jesus was literally so ecstatic when he heard this. He stopped everyone and made a scene about it. Take note of that. So now you know God's heart. God literally loses it. He flips out when you just say, "Hey, God, look, I just know you got, I know you can take care of that." Jesus's reply was, "Go, it's done," because you believed it would be done. But remember, his initial response was, "Yo, do I need to go and heal, old dude? Do I need to go there?" So he was willing to go. He was willing to put in, the footwork and all this other stuff. But he shows you that he didn't have to. So the reason he would put in that work is because we lack the belief. We lack the trust that he can, you know what I'm saying, take on these big things. So because of that, he's willing to do the footwork, because it's only based on how much we believe. That's how much, you know what I'm saying, he can do for us, you know. So to the amount you believe is the amount that he's gonna go. So in order to make you believe, if he has to go and physically touch the man to heal him, because that's how you that's what it'll take for you to believe, then that's what he'll do. He'll do that work. But the fact that this centurion was already like on board and was like, yo, no cap, you already got old dude taken care of, that right there was enough for Jesus to lose it. And he told everyone, he was like, I haven't seen anyone with this type of faith. He's almost begging people to just carry that type of faith, that type of walk where it's just like, regardless, it's taken care of. You feel me? All right, so next up, Jesus heals many. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on them. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah, and this was spoken thousands of years beforehand. Isaiah said, he took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. So this was that weird stuff that was happening where prophets would write something about this Jewish Messiah, right? Because remember, Jesus was a Jew. This was written for a Jewish text. So the Jews had this belief that there was this one man who was going to come, you know what I'm saying? And there were certain things that he had to fulfill for people to be like, yeah, that's him. And one of those things was written by a man named Isaiah, where he said, he took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. He wrote that in future tense in the past. So he wrote it like it already happened in the past because it was going to happen. And this is Jesus making it happen when he's literally taking on our infirmities and bearing our diseases. So that's that whole weird thing where it's just like the fact that everything lines up from the Jewish text to what Jesus was doing, because that's the whole reason the New Testament was written, was because, you know, it was to show the Jews that the Messiah had come. And being a Christian means you believe that Christ was the Messiah that was written about in the Old Testament. And another thing is what was commonplace at the time is we have things called shamans, right? And I mean, we see things like this in horror movies, or they're very commonly depicted in Hollywood through Indian type movies, where there will be, you know what I'm saying, the witch doctor or the shaman, you know, the person who will make a potion or whatever, or tell you to eat these herbs and do all these different things in order to be healed from sickness and whatnot. And shamans were people where if you were sick, or if you were quote unquote demon possessed, meaning that something that isn't in a physical body is trying to embody your body, what they would do is the shaman would put a demon inside of you that would, or a spirit inside of you that would run out any sickness or scare away any spirits that are already inside of you. So let's say this right here is a spirit that's inside of you, right? And it's causing you to throw up all the time and stuff. So you go and you see the shaman. The shaman would then recognize the spirit that's inside of you. So they'll say, okay, sweet, we see you got a small toothbrush inside of you. Well, to run that toothbrush out, we need something bigger. So we'll find, you know what I'm saying, hair gel, right? And because it's bigger, it can then come into your body, run out the smaller one, scare it away, and now this one's inside of you. And the shaman will give you certain rules, right? Like you're not allowed to eat carrots, you're not allowed to do all these different things because you don't want to do anything that upsets this spirit. The spirit might not like carrots, it might not like listening to Drake, right? So you're not allowed to do certain things that upsets this spirit, right? But then you end up listening to a Drake song because he just dropped God's Plan, and now you're like, shoot, you know what I'm saying? How am I supposed to resist? So now this one gets upset, and you start getting even sicker than what you were with this one, right? So now we need something even bigger. So then they find a granite block, right? Something that can just knock this one out of the way. And it just keeps going up and up and up until you're to the point where you can't find anything bigger to run it out, right? So Jesus, when he came along, he was running these things out of people, right? Scaring these, telling these spirits to leave these people alone. And these were these type of spirits where shamans would come, and the town was aware of it. This was commonplace. This was something that people knew. So they would know this man is possessed, and no shaman or anyone who's been able to try and run this demon out has ever been able to get it out. Okay. So then all of a sudden, randomly, this Jesus guy shows up and he says one word, go, and it's gone. This terrified the people in town because they understood that no one could find any way to run these things out. Yet this man said one word. So their assumption is, what did he just place inside of that person that could scare out that thing that no one else could get rid of, right? So I'm holding a toothbrush this whole time I'm talking to you guys. So for them, it was a terrifying thought because they were not aware that he was driving things out with the Holy Spirit, with something good. He was or is the king, the one in authority. So because of that, he has all the right to say you need to go, and they have to listen. He's Big Papa, you know what I'm saying? He's the big dog. So he would get, you know what I'm saying, asked to leave a lot of towns because they didn't understand, because it wasn't commonplace. So next up, you have the cost of following Jesus. It says, when Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. That man was handling business. Yo, cross the lake. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, teacher, I will follow you wherever you go, right? And this is very important. Always judge people by their actions, not by their words. Because I'm pretty sure this man really wanted to follow, but then Jesus tells him, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head, right? Birds have nests. They got a place to sleep. Foxes have a place to sleep. But in terms of following him, at this time, man was on a mission. He didn't have anywhere to sleep. He was literally just going out there putting in work. So another disciple said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus told him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Right? So this man was like saying some stuff that would scare away a lot of people, where it's like, look, you can say you want to, be a part of this gang life all you want, but this ain't something light, young blood. But a lot of people get confused, and even I get confused with the disciple said to him, Lord, first let me go bury my father. Right? That's a reasonable ask. If my dad's about to die, let me go bury him. But Jesus told him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Bro, I'm not even gonna lie, man. If I meet this man and I'm like, hey, yo, my pops is sick, let me bury him first, and this dude replies to me and says, nah, you good. Bro, I'm look at him kind of sideways, like, hold up, homie, like, that's my dad. So let's look and see what Dr. David Jeremiah says in terms of translating that to where we understand it. Understanding what Jesus is, what he's really saying here, because that's not some easy task. So 8:22. So he's saying, let the dead bury their own dead means let the spiritually dead bury the physically dead. The call to follow Jesus takes priority over everything. So it was a big calling, man. Like, Jesus was on a mission for people to learn, what he was teaching before he knew he had to. Well, I don't want to ruin the story, we still got to get there. But following him was no light task, and he knew that, and he wouldn't lie to you. He would tell you, if this is what you want to do, this is the cost for it. So next up, this is one of my favorite parts. Jesus calms the storm. This is going to tackle back on that faith thing I was talking about. So he said, then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. Okay, picture that. But Jesus was sleeping. Picture that. The boat is rocking like crazy to where the water looks like it's about to swallow that gent. And he's sleeping, right? Dude's just calm. And it says, the disciples went and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. Right? This is what he replies. You of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, what kind of man is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Why I love this part so much is because the dude is asleep as the boat is rocking, right? And they come and wake him up. When they wake him up, they're terrified. Yo, we're about to die, bro. Like, what do we do? He doesn't just put on his boxers and whatnot, run outside and, what's going on? The first thing he says, you have little faith. Why are you so afraid? He gets them in check. I picture him just rubbing the crust out of his eyes and just being like, yo, why y'all tripping? The man loves when you just show you believe. When the boat is rocking and you just standing there like, bruh, we chilling. No worries. Tranquilo. But people, you know what I'm saying? It's easy because these are his disciples. These are the ones closest to him. So, I mean, don't beat yourself up if like life is looking hard and it's like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? And you start worrying and stuff. But just realize for Jesus' character, he cared less about what was going on in the world and cared more about addressing the real problem at hand. Why are y'all tripping? That's what he addressed. He's like, come on, bro. Y'all waking me up. What's up with your little faith? Remember, this is the heart of God we're seeing when we look at Jesus. So when it comes to dealing with God, we got to realize, like, if we come to him worried, immediately his response will be the same. Bro, why are you tripping? You know what I'm saying? It's like I got to experience that with the whole America's Got Talent thing, man, where it was literally my senior year of college. I wasn't putting in any resumes for jobs and stuff. Like, the pressure was on. The boat was rocking. But it's like I had to keep that mentality where it's like, yo, I know you're going to take care of me, you know? And that's part of the reason why, you know what I'm saying, I had the confidence I had when I went on stage. It was because I knew it wasn't something in my control, and it was nothing I needed to worry about. Because I understood who's controlling, and I understand who's controlling the whole situation. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, that's one of my favorite parts right there, man, is gotta have that faith. Because like I said, the men were amazing. Asked, what kind of man is this? You know what I'm saying? Even the winds and the waves obey him. Like, this man goes hard, bro. Like, I don't care, man. You got Al Capone, you got, you know what I'm saying, Leonidas from freaking Sparta and all this different stuff, man. No one goes as hard as Jesus, bro. Like, this man was caught. I'm even sure Leonidas would have been terrified on a boat rocking, bro. This man was just chilling. Y'all be sleeping on my boy, man. All right, Jesus restores 2 demon-possessed men. And remember, we know how, you know what I'm saying, this goes. So you gotta realize, you know what I'm saying, how this was for everyone else when they saw this. So when he arrived at the other side in the region of Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men coming from the tombs met him. They were so violent that no one could pass that way. Okay, so these fools was tripping. They said, what do you want with us, Son of God? They shouted that. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? So they already knew who he was when they saw him, and they already knew his plan. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? It's written, you know what I'm saying? There is an appointed time where all of the angels that turned against God at the beginning of time, that's why hell was created, right? It was to torture them because it's an eternal punishment for them jacking with God's plan, because the choices they made have affected us. You know, we live in a world where the grass dies, the trees dies, we die. The world's broken. You got murdering, you got, you know what I'm saying, broken families, all these different things. We suffer because of decisions they made because they jacked up God's initial plan. So because of that, God has created a place to punish them, right? They are aware of this, and they know that the time comes when they must face their punishment, which is also why, you know, there's a lot of evil in the world, because they want to bring as many of us with them to that torture place as kind of like a smack in the face back at God, you know, which is a sucky situation, you know, and it's a battle, you know, that we sadly have to be a part of. But, you know, they recognize him and they ask, you know, have you come to torture us before the appointed time? Which shows you that people can say they know about God, man, but even the demons know who he is. Even the fallen angels know who he is. It's like, it's one thing to say you know who God is, but it's like, it's another thing, you know what I'm saying, to really be about that life and be like, I bet, you know what I'm saying, like, let's get it, you know. But, Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs were eating. The demons begged Jesus, "If you drive us out, send us into the herd of pigs." He said to them, "Go." That's it. One word, go. I'm sure it was in Hebrew, so it wasn't go, but just one word. So they came out and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and died in the water. Those tending the pigs ran off, went into the town, and reported all this, including what had happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, what did they do? Well, I told you, typically to drive something out, what do you have to do? You got to knock it out, with something bigger. So, of course, the Bible mentions people couldn't walk that way, so everyone was aware these people were demon-possessed. All of a sudden, this guy comes and he just says, "Go." And all of a sudden, the demon-possessed men are no longer demon-possessed. So, of course, when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. All right. So, that is the end of chapter 8. We knocking it out, baby. Let's go. Ooh, it's late. People are sleeping. Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go. Whoa, whoa. Let's go. Whoa, whoa. Let's go. Whoa, whoa.